Well, hello traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little. This is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. We're looking at Tesla here on the screen. And speaking of using the information the market gives you, this market on this particular stock is not going to stick. So Tesla reports earnings. We're looking after the bell here. Got a nice big pop up on an earnings beat. But that is probably not going to hold. Now you don't have anything here. You actually have to pull this thing back and look at it longer term. And if I do that, slide this back so we can see the rest of this chart, bring it over, right? It's coming back into this area here. These are the tops. You got your spike up into those tops. Sorry about all the notifications there. This was the breakdown area here. My take is it's not going to stick over 338. So anything back up into that area is probably a sell if you are so inclined. But that's alive after the shot of the market. And what we had today was we had a market that tried to sell down but wouldn't stay down. And we end up with a what looks to me to be a somewhat bullish setup for tomorrow. So let's run through the charts and I'll show you what I'm seeing. I'm doing this show fairly early today. The market just closed about 30 minutes ago. So here's that range that we've looked at before. You can see the attempt to push it down, stays inside the range still, ends up near the highs. It's still going to try and test that top, it looks to me. The more important tell looked to be over in the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ got underneath this big bar, 6318. Looks like it traded down as low as 6313. Tried to get under, couldn't, flip back around, does like a little hammer reversal. That thing's going to try and trade up tomorrow in my estimation. Now, I don't have final volumes, but I don't think those volumes are going to be as heavy as they were last Thursday. Same thing on the NDX, didn't get as low. Apple, of course, was holding this up most of the day. But Apple, if you look at Apple closes at roughly one. Let's see what the close was on Apple. I think it was about 157, 158. Let's get the timing on this. 15. Yeah, so that is the closing price there. So 157.14. Apple was as high as 159, almost 160 last night. Traded up as high as 159.75 today, closes at 57. Now at 57 it's actually over the highs, so Apple can try and go higher. You didn't get a huge volume spurt comparatively on earnings, so I don't think Apple is going to take this market higher, but I think the confluence of the events here that we've seen with the respect to the way the market's traded, they're just not ready to give it up. The one that's struggling the most, of course, is the Russell. The Russell does trade down again, trades into the low of this swing point high. We expected it to trade that deep. It has traded that deep. 14.1361 was the low. Gets underneath it. Where's the low? 14.1361. Oh, well, that's interesting. It did close under it. I thought it closed over it. So you're just slightly underneath that low. Now, that's an important tell. What that says is more than likely this market that's been this way is probably this way on this time frame. So that's the first of the indexes to do that. I still think you probably get a little pop tomorrow on the rest of the behavior that I saw in the indexes. But the Russell is claiming that this market's probably not going to go all that much higher. If we look at the XLF, and that's also in keeping with what I'm thinking overall, because the XLK, the XLF are what's driving this. Okay, so we don't have the numbers in yet. 25.32 closes at 31. Test over the top. That's actually a test failure at the highs. That's a negative. Let's look at the technology. I believe the technology actually held in there and just barely inside day. So the XLK is basically inside day, doesn't tell us a lot. A dark candle, which is not good. Here's the XLY. Now again, all of these have hammer reversals for the most part. That one does too. Let's look at the industrials. and that one actually gets some good volume inside day compared to yesterday, so not a huge tell. Energy was under pressure all day long after the API numbers, but actually held pretty well. Basic materials, this one actually did a full retest regen and is going to try to regenerate higher. Here's that low, gets underneath yesterday, a lot less volume today. That looks to try and bounce tomorrow. And finally the semiconductors, and then we'll look at the biotech. Semi's bearish engulfing. Let's see what biotech did. So again, like we've seen lately, biotech actually looks like it wants to bounce. What we've seen lately is that the sectors look a lot worse than the indexes. The indexes to me look like they're going to try to pop tomorrow to the top of the range and more than likely give it all right back. That's the way I'm going to end it tonight. I'll have to leave it at that. I've got to head out early and won't be back for the regular time. So have a great one. I'll see you next time.